Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first audio version of DrainTalk. It's a calm morning outside, the snow is falling gently down, there is a winter wonderland outside here, and I'm inside enjoying my morning coffee. I mentioned in the last DrainTalk episode that there will be beer tasting ahead, and a minor correction on that. In every video episode, there will be beer tasting. I feel that for beer tasting, we need the medium which is video, the visual aspects of it. So in this audio version, there will primarily be me talking about pinball and enjoying some coffee. And I hope you will enjoy this episode with me too, at work, in your car, or wherever you may be. So, in this episode, we are going to have a recap of the XMAS Matchplay Weekend tournament, which I organized together with my friend Tom last weekend. And I want to give you all an insight into how it is to organize a tournament like this as an organizer. And also from a player point of view, because as an organizer and a player, it's very much happening at the same time, and you have a lot of responsibility and also trying to keep everything together and running smoothly. Also, by talking a bit about how we think about the tournament and how we kind of mentally go into it, it might give you players some perspective of an understanding of why things are the way they are. But first, a little morning rant. So, during the tournament weekend, I got really fucking tired of hearing the same few players who were very vocal about how much they fucking hate C-Ray and Doodlebug to a degree. C-Ray from Bali has been available for people to play at our club since 2017, and still to this day it seems people are whining about it despite not actually spending a decent amount of time to learn how it plays, how things bounces, and, finding their way of dealing with the degree of randomness which can be found in electromechanical pinball machines. The complaints that I could hear while running around being a tournament director is things like, "It's just a bingo machine. You can't use this in a serious tournament. You can't have extra balls on." While at the same time, the same people are complaining about, "You can't have EMs on 3 balls." Doodlebug was on 5 and C-Ray. So sometimes I get the feeling that, whatever we do, whatever settings we have, someone will always be unhappy. That's why we do what we want for the tournament and what we feel is the best. But regarding C-Ray and Doodlebug, I really disagree when people saying that those machines don't belong in a serious tournament and that they're only bingo machines. Why? Well, classic machines span many decades. Everything from Firepower to Harlem Globetrotters to Hot Tip and to early EMs like C-Ray, Old Chicago, etc. Bally games from the C-Ray era involves much of the same core layout with no inlanes. They have just these huge slingshots which end in the flippers. And then outside it is the outlanes, which are quite large. You have C-Ray and its twin Mariner, Big Valley, Space Time, etc. They use kind of the same layout. And yes, these early EMs have a more intense and difficult gameplay and probably slightly more house balls involved than, for example, Hot Tip, which is a bit more modern Williams EM. But there is a reason why C-Ray is set on 5 balls. And again, you also have the possibility of earning extra balls. I'm going to make a video, a video tutorial of C-Ray a bit later, and I will dive a bit more into the strategy when it comes to extra balls and stuff like that. You will probably have a house ball or 2, or in the worst case, if you have 4 house balls, you will still have that 1 ball to play when you get control of it. That responsibility to make the best out of that 1 ball is on you. So when you have cradle up the ball, what do? Are you going to try and backhand it into the bonus collect lane on the right side? Or are you going to try and shoot the center mushroom shot to score the mushroom value? These are important choices to make. And if you miss the center shot and the ball is deflected right into the outlane, that's on you. Also, if you retrace all the steps from a plunge till the drain, there is probably something you could do on the ball's journey from the top and to the bottom. When it comes dribbling down from the top lanes to the bumpers, you know, there are a lot of rubbers on the sides, a lot of places you could be nudging, and spending enough time on the machines gives you kind of the feeling and knowledge of where and when do you need to nudge in order to catch the ball correctly, and not making the ball not hit the slingshots, which would probably send it straight out into the outlane. And equally important, how the rubbers are in order to kind of live catch or catch the ball. So I can understand that it has a more degree of randomness than some other electromechanical games. But if you spend enough time on it and you know, get the feel of it, saying that a game like that doesn't belong in a serious tournament kind of implies that I'm not organizing a serious tournament, and that kind of annoys me. And funnily enough, these few players crying loud about this game being totally unfair and doesn't belong in a tournament, there are players of such a skill level that I would have expected better of them. And if you want to be a top player, you need to be able to handle every game thrown in your face. And also, it seems to me that when people have the opportunity to spend time and practice on C-Ray, if they're visiting our club, or if it's after the tournament and they have some time to play the other games, what do? They play modern games, they play Stern games, they play Firepower or Harlem, games they like and know. Not necessarily the games they need to practice on. So there's a cause and effect here. And also, have you ever watched the Pinburg finals? They have a game from every era, and they have used EM games like Doodlebug, Faces, High Hand, which are extremely difficult, full of randomness, and what people would complain being unfair and random, not skills. But what do the top players in the world do? They play them the best they can. They accept the house balls, accept the randomness, and when they do get control of a ball or two, they really make the most out of it. They don't start crying to the organizers about it being unfair and the Pinburg is a very unprofessional and not serious tournament. I mean, come on. Whew, okay, rant over. It's a nice morning. My point is, most people and most players are fine with C-Ray being part of a bigger lineup in a tournament. It's one game of many. And most players, they play the game in front of them as it lies. They try their best. They accept that some games plays more difficult and has a higher degree of randomness. But in the end, it is still skill. So for all of you out there who hate C-Ray and Doodlebug, I disagree with you. It is not going away. I would advise you to play it more whenever you have the opportunity. That aside, let us continue with the main topic for this episode, the XMAS Matchplay Tournament 2021. And it was so cool to be able to organize this and have this tournament this year, because we were planning this in 2020 but had to postpone because of COVID, you know. The first time the XMAS Matchplay Tournament was organized was in 2016. I took the initiative to organize it, and together with Tom, who joined me in the preparations and kind of working out the format and working together, we have been doing that every year since 2016. Our focus has always been match play, because at the time we started with the XMAS in 2016, the monthly tournament at that club was basically best game qualifications. And we wanted to have a whole frigging weekend of match play galore. Throughout the years, we have tried some different side formats, but the main has always been the same. It's been a certain amount of match play rounds in groups of 4. In every round there are 3 machines, one from each era: EM, SS and Modern. It is tiered Swiss, which means that for every round it's incrementally smaller and smaller groups, and you get kind of paired up with those in your point area. So let's start with the planning phase. We always start talking about the tournament a couple of months in advance, and Tom and I, we meet up. We have some different opinions and different preferences on how to run a tournament, formats, the machine settings, and everything. So we meet up and we try to find a common ground. So this year we met up at Tilt. We each had our, like what was the most important for each of us. And I think the main thing for Tom was that we keep the schedule. Like, because we've been to so many tournaments where there is a schedule, but then it totally blows out of proportions and you end up playing pinball until the very, very late hours of the night. And that might be cool for some players who are there to party and have, are not stressing at all. But as a tournament director, we need some sleep too. And we're also starting very early on Saturdays and Sundays. And I believe that more players also appreciate, us sticking to the schedule and being able to end in reasonable time. So the schedule was very important for us. Another aspect I really wanted to bring in this year is to have a leftover tournament on Sundays. Because last time in 2019, we had the round robin as the first playoff round on the Sunday. And there was 16 players, 8 players was out of the tournament after, 1.5 or 2 hours. And then there was nothing happening. So I wanted a way to kind of keep those players going out in the first round staying, and also the people traveling from far away, they could, come to the club a little bit later and then join in with those out of the first round and have a leftover tournament. But also it was important that the leftover tournament wouldn't go on for like 6-7 hours and be late in the evening, because people have airplanes, they have trains, or they just want to get the fuck home on Sunday. So we try to make the schedule kind of work and find like how long does every tournament take and how many games and rounds can we fit into that, and also that affects the settings of the game, because if you have like 5 balls on certain games, it can take a hell of a long time. And also if a stern game isn't kind of made sufficiently difficult, it might also take a fucking long time. So this was all a lot of factors to bring into making the schedule and the formats for this tournament. A major challenge every year is to put up the machine banks for the main tournament, because we have a set amount of banks, and each bank has a modern, a solid state, and a EM machine. It is challenging to kind of put together a mix of machines with the goal of every round taking kind of the same amount of time. Okay, if we have a longer playing stern game, we want to have a shorter EM or a shorter solid state, and then put in a EM game which kind of fits in. Or if it's a super quick stern game, we could have a longer playing SS and EM machine. So it was something we have spent a decent amount of time on trying to figure it out. It is a best guess effort. We also looked at former match play tournaments we had and seen the statistics of every machine and kind of taking that into consideration to make the combination of the machine banks. So this is not just randomly put together and then hope for the best. We are trying our best to make the banks last longest. But of course, it's never perfect. And we saw that in the tournament, which we'll come back to, that some rounds just take shorter time and some takes longer time. And this is also the reason why we have set several classic machines on 3 balls instead of 5 balls. Because in a 4-player game, if everyone has some decent balls, the game time gets exponentially longer with 5 balls. Personally, I prefer 5 balls on most classics, because if I fuck up or I get fucked on several balls, I have a couple more balls to cling on to. But despite my own preferences, For this format and this schedule, 3 balls on the classic games is needed, at least on the games we deemed very long playing. It's either that or we've reduced the amount of rounds, but being the main tournament, I really want the qualification part to be of a certain length so you can play for several rounds and still be able to make the cut. You know, it's not like you're playing 2 rounds and you come last and then you're totally screwed. It's a decision we made. Another challenge is that we have much more modern machines than classics, so we need to reuse the classics in different banks. And then that's also important that we kind of put, if we have C-Ray on as a first game in the bank, we need to have it on the potentially last game in another bank. It's like a Tetris puzzle, just we're doing our best to make that work. We were also supposed to have several more machines. I was thinking of bringing my Walking Dead to the club, but since Roadshow and Whirlwind was also supposed to be brought in the days before the tournament, and I discovered a throw switch issue on the Walking Dead, and we had enough modern machines, I kind of let it stay at home. But when Tom was driving to pick up the other games, the car broke down. Fucking IKEA car. It broke down, so yeah, Tom had to get a rescue car, and the games did not arrive. But still, we had many games and many modern games. So let's have a look at the formats for the different tournaments. And for the warm-up tournament on the Friday, we decided to have the same format as our monthly tournaments, because basically it was a Stern Army monthly tournament event. And it was 9 rounds, and the top 4 players would go to the finals. Point system was 4-2-1-0, so it was an incentive to kind of try and win every game. Now, we got some critique for having only the 4 players advancing to the final. I think that's more like a general critique of the monthly tournaments instead of this specific one. But and also people weren't that excited that certain classic games were part of it. But it was a warm-up tournament, so we wanted players to get the opportunity to play different machines they could get in the main and the side tournament. Another critique was that it was ending a bit too early, and fair enough, someone wants to part a bit later, and on Friday night, maybe the midnight isn't, early enough. But because it's a long Saturday and Sunday, we thought it would be good to be done a bit earlier. I mean, we still finished after midnight, but especially for us organizers, it's very good to get a little bit of sleep before the next 2 days, which are full of playing and handling machine issues and everything. We could have cut down a round or 2 in the qualifications to have like semifinals with 8 players, but that would also mean less playing for the majority who doesn't advance. I mean, we were, as mentioned, around 30 players. I don't know if I really, for this kind of one evening tournament, I don't know if I see the big difference in ending 5th place in the qualification and just not making the finals, or having playoffs after 7 rounds and then you end up 5th and don't make the finals. It doesn't change your position, it doesn't change your TGP. Yeah, I don't know, but I'd love to hear more about why is that important for some of you. But our primary motivation for having top 4 in the finals and not anymore is, first off, we want the majority of the players to get the value for their money and play as much as possible within the schedule, within a time frame, and that's kind of the most important here, the time frame. We've ended the finals at 12:30, which is 30 minutes before the estimated time, and that's, both me and Tom were very happy with that. And players got a lot of playing, and people could go home and get some sleep before getting up fucking early for the Saturday main tournament. But that was a motivation for having, 9 rounds and only 4 people going to the finals. For the side tournament on Saturday, the format was the first top 8 players to reach 28 points, with 4-2-1-0 as a scoring system, and it was on Classics. Well, it was supposed to be on Classics. So we thought it would be quicker that way, because with a threshold of 28 points, you could advance to the finals or the playoffs if you win 7 straight games. Here we had top 8 advancing, playing semifinals, best of 3 games, and then the top 4 goes to the finals to play 3 games. So in general, before the tournament, lots of hours were spent fixing stuff. I'm not making this up. I'm spending way much more time fiddling with my machines than actually playing, and that's my fault, you know. But that's the reality of it, in addition to the daytime job we have. So when the weekend finally came, I was really beat. I was, really tired and almost looking forward to the tournament being done, you know. But let's go to tournament time. On Friday, it was time for the warm-up tournament. And this year, we were so privileged to have visitors from Austria, Sweden and Finland. Ari and Pilvi took the journey from Finland. Peter and Tom from Degerfors represented their club, Degerfors Pinball. And my sister-in-law Sabine and her boyfriend came up from Austria. We also had a bunch of players from Trondheim this year. It was real nice to see all of you again. I think last time we had most of you from Trondheim was several years ago. We'd also have more players representing Bergen if it had not been for COVID, and probably some more players from Oslo also. But we had a new record at our new club location. 32 players, and we could still fit in 8 more, and that will be the next goal we have. So let's have a review of the warm-up tournament. We kept the time quite well. We finished at 12:30. We planned to be done at 1, so that was a bit bonus for us as organizers. On Friday I was sober because I knew by experience there will be much drinking and little sleep the rest of the weekend, so I needed that. I needed to wake up on Saturday not hangover, in contrast to Tom. And I can understand that when you have 9 rounds of qualifying, 1 game each round, it feels crap if you get mostly classics, especially some of the classics you really hate, and other players get mostly modern machines where you feel that they kind of get to show more of what they can do. And we use the match play balance, so it's supposed to kind of balance out the combination of players, the machines, and the playing order. It's just the difficulty of software trying to match all of those parameters. In this tournament, I managed to get to the finals together with Frank, Tormod, and Olav. And in this final, I fucking killed it. So I placed first on all of the 3 games. We played 3 or 4 games. I placed first on the 3 games. So when we entered the last game, I basically had already won. So that was a very nice start for me, and I think it kind of made me relax a bit also about, you know, with regards to how I would be playing the rest of the weekend, in addition to keeping the tournament running and everything. So, main qualification on Saturday. We started at 10:30, if I recall, and we would be playing 5 rounds, 3 games each round, so 15 games in total. And it was a lot to do, like one after one. Machines started having issues. There was very often stuck balls and things Tom or me had to sort out in between us playing our own games. And we tried to fix most of the stuff as we went along, or at least figure out the issues so we could write them down. And what I like about having multi-era machines in each round is that people who prefer modern games can have their best chance to get the points of them. And the same for those who kind of feel most comfortable on solid state or classics machines. But of course, if you are best on modern and you really screw up on the one modern game you get in a group, and then you have to play a solid state on 3 balls and a super difficult electromechanic machine with a higher random factor than other EMs, I can understand it's very stressful. And when players have gone into the bitching mode about 3 balls on classics or C-Ray, it's usually very much fueled by frustration and losing a game because of that, and a very stressful experience. I think it's a combination of everything. Because I don't really hear people complain about, for example, C-Ray or Doodlebug when they win those games. We're all humans. It's okay. On the side tournament, we were a bit uncertain how long it would take. Because you could advance to the playoffs, the top 8, by winning 7 straight matches, like placing first in 7 matches. But that's that's rare. So we calculated a higher average number of the games, estimating how long it would take. We had a problem with the EMA Classic games really starting to have issues and break down. So we had to pull several games as the rounds proceeded, in addition to games like Pharaoh taking very long time. So we decided to pull in modern games which were faster. But this escalated as more classic machines broke down, so unfortunately the last rounds of qualification and the 2 rounds of finals got to be a mix of new and old and mostly new machines, so it took longer than we hoped. The qualifications ended up being 12 rounds. After 12 rounds, the 8 top spots were filled, in addition to a tiebreaker. And even some of the modern machines we pulled in started showing issues, and we had to pull some of those. In the semifinals, we had groups of 4 playing 3 games. And yeah, the matches were picked randomly by Matchplay, but it ended up being mostly modern. So it was a little bummer, a bit because we really wanted a full classic tournament, but also because the to-do list of machines needing repair was really just growing and growing. But after an intense final, as always, Bent Broklev won, followed by Vegard Stengrunnet, Kjetil Seberg, and Sigurd Mørtvedt. And after the finals, it was a bit late. I think it ended with 1 and 2. It's a bit foggy. I ended having some late talks, and I was a very pitiful creature as I walked 20 minutes to the hotel at 3:30, cold and freezing, and grabbed like 4 hours of sleep before I pulled myself back to the club on Sunday at 10 o'clock for the main playoffs. And the main playoffs, we wanted the main playoffs to really make sure the best and the most consistent players advanced in each round. So the top 16 players who advanced were split into 4 groups. Each group played 5 games, which were chosen by Matchplay. 7, 5, 3, 1 point system, so there was no real benefit for winning, but of course there's a lot of points. And because many classics were removed due to these issues, and Matchplay being Matchplay, the only classics being part of the game banks people were playing were C-Ray, Heavy Metal Meltdown, and Pharaoh. The rest were modern. So 3 groups had 1 classic, the rest modern, and I would say it's a totally fair game to having to play 1 C-Ray and 4 modern games. I mean, come on, if you feel fucked by C-Ray and then you have 4 modern games which you fuck up on, I don't really have much sympathy for that. But of course, it's okay to become pissed at oneself when you're playing poorly, in any case. Now, in the quarterfinals, I got in a very difficult group with Tormod, Björn, and Sigurd. Sounds like a final, right? And I started really crappy, ending last position on the 2 first games, Avengers and Street Fighter 2. I mean, I like the games, but yeah, I don't know, the more I tried to not get last, the more it happened, so... But I managed to pull myself together. I won Kiss, won Pharaoh, and on a thriller of a game on AC/DC. A second place, it made me advance to the next round, together with Tormod. And in the semifinals, I felt I got in an even more difficult group. It was me, Tormod, Reidar Spets, and Kjetil. And again, I thought to myself, just play consistent, don't focus on getting first necessarily, just don't get last. And again, I lose the 2 first fucking games, again. And by some sheer power of will, a decent amount of skill and a bit luck, I won both Avengers and AC/DC, leaving it to an insane last game with a lot of probable outcomes. We played on Tron, and I think I would have advanced if I just didn't get last, or maybe third. But then Kjetil puts up an amazing game, ball 1, 28 million, and I think Reidar has like 20 or something, so... And I just lost it. 3 quick fucking drains later, I got last place, and the XMAS main tournament was over for me. But I kind of felt okay with it. It was nice just watching the finals, actually. It was really exciting, and I wish we had filmed it also, streamed it. We rigged up for streaming, trying to stream the Friday evening, but it was not an ideal rig. We couldn't really move it around easily, and with everything going on the whole weekend, we had to drop the streaming, and we need someone really dedicated who can do that, and also move the rigs and cameras quickly so we don't get much downtime. And as a tournament director, I need to kind of not deal with that. I just need it to happen. So who knows? Maybe we'll get Ink and Moose or Jim and Dina Lindsay next year. We'll see. I would really like to stream it because there was so many fucking cool matches, which would have been exciting for people to watch on games they don't see that much either. And in the finals, with all boiling down to the 5th and last game on Big Buck Hunter, with a potentially tiebreak situation, it was nerve-wracking to see such great players trying to tame, avoid, or bending over to getting fucked by the buck. But in the end, Tormod played at another level, and he brought home the victory with a 2.5 million extra ball ramp shot on Big Buck Hunter. So big grats to you, Tormod, for that. Really cool to see. Meanwhile, from 12 o'clock, we started the leftover tournament, which would be group match play for 4 hours, alongside the main semifinals and the final. So those who got knocked out in the first playoff round in main could participate, along with the other people who didn't qualify. And Tom, you were a champ and you handled much of the logistics for match play and everything there. Even as he was playing the main semifinals. So thank you for that. And it seemed like people enjoyed leftovers, having something to do, and another tournament where you could get whoppers and play more pinball. Unfortunately, because of the amount of players, match play divided everyone into more 3-player groups than 4. And that means the TGP is being you get 1.5 times instead of 2 times as many games. But that's how it is. I'm sorry that we couldn't bring that up a bit more. But Ari from Finland, he managed to play very consistent, and he brought home the first place, and I think it was 7.5 Whopper points. But I'd love to see him in the main playoffs also, but I'm quite sure sometimes traveling fatigue, little sleep, and also playing machines at a new location, which has their own feel, their own tilt, their own bounce, it can be challenging, but I know he's a very good player. I hope he will return back to us and give us the Finnish challenge we deserve. So Ari, hope to see you again back at our club here in Oslo. As an organizer, I am quite satisfied with how the tournament went. I stand behind the formats and the schedule, the choice of machines and the settings. But there are also several things I wished we could have done better. One thing is there's certain notes I would have put up on machines, which I just totally forgot, like Silver Ball Mania having a custom ROM, and Getaway having, the rule of getting disqualified if you play Secret Mania. And I would love to have streaming. That is very important for me personally, because when I am not playing tournaments, sitting at home watching streams from Fulda, from other places, it's really exciting. It really gives me joy. So that is something I will really try and make sure we have in the big tournaments next year. It was also unfortunate that so many games started having issues throughout the tournament. But a tournament like this is the only time when you really get to stress test them, and pinball machines is a physical thing. They break down. It's just shit that happens. So after gathering ourselves, getting the motivation back up and the energy, we have a huge long list of issues we are going to burn through and fix up for tournaments next year. And lastly, a big thanks to all of you who came to the tournament. A big thanks to my club colleagues stepping in and fixing stuff and doing their part. A huge thanks to Tom for being my co-organizer, and I hope you all enjoyed the tournament all in all. We will have a look at the feedback. I sent out the feedback survey, which I'm really looking forward to read over, and we're having a retrospect and talking about things you bring back to us, and see what we can do for the next tournament to bring it to a new level and make it even better. All right, thanks you for listening to DrainTalk episode 6, the first audio-only version, and looking forward to bring out the next video episode and also the C-Ray gameplay tutorial, which I have to do. All right, have a good one. See you soon.